The engine is a 650cc block. It's actually taken from a Kawasaki Ninja 650, so a sports bike. So this is a tried and true engine that's been detuned to facilitate adventure touring.
So these are our bikes for our Philippine loop trip. We have two Kawasaki Versys 650s. Jack's here, the one that, you know, it's not as impressive looking. This is the 2023 model, and I have the 2020 model. They're both fitted out differently. We'll get into the gear in a little bit, talk about how we've kitted them up for our ride, because we have them kitted up pretty differently. But first, we just want to talk a little bit about what we actually like about the bikes, and some of the differences. So, would you like to start about what you like about your bike?
Sure. Okay, so here we have traction control flashing. As you can see, you've got two selectable modes of traction control, which is handy because Brett's bike, which we'll come to in a minute, has got off-road tires. Mine does not. So I feel like I need that extra traction control. Aside from that, it's got the usual carb, fuel gauges, trip timer, etc., and of course the rev counter. But yeah, all looks very neat. If we come around here, we have adjustable preload on the rear suspension. So if you're carrying a pillion passenger, or if you're carrying a lot of baggage, which we are, then you just give it a couple of twists and it basically compensates for the extra weight. Here we have a new addition, water bottle holders, because we found we're getting very dehydrated. It's about 35 degrees currently in Manila, and it's only going to get hotter. So that's essential. The tanks hold about 21 litres. LED lights, front and back, LED indicators. Dual caliper disc brakes on the front, so you've got plenty of stopping power on these bikes. Also, they've got ABS front and rear. The engine is a 650cc block. It's actually taken from a Kawasaki Ninja 650, so a sports bike. So this is a tried and true engine that's been detuned to facilitate adventure touring, which means it's got more torque in lower revs, and it's better for carrying you and a bunch of gear across continents. So it's perfect. It's not a big bike. It's a mid-range bike by European standards, but by Asian standards, these are big bikes.
So just briefly, what Jack touched upon, if you want to take a quick look at his tires, which are basically full 100% street tires, see they're a lot smoother. They have a much wider surface that makes contact with the ground. That gives them a lot of good grip when they're on the street, but less so in the dirt and the gravel. With these grooves, they can get filled up with muck and mud and other stuff pretty easily, and they'll tend to lose some of his traction. If we take a quick look over here at mine are 80/20 by some accounts. They call them 70/30 dual sport tires. So these are the Shinko 705s, which are actually extremely affordable. But while they don't quite get the same range as some of the more expensive tires, they're considered one of the best dual sport tires by many people. And thankfully, they weren't actually too difficult to find here in the Philippines, which is really nice. Another thing that you may notice, like he mentioned, he's going to have the soft saddlebags on his, whereas mine is already kitted out with, I have the hard panniers on the sides and the top box, which is nice. One of the best things about these is the security. They're lockable, so I can keep them locked when we stop at places for lunch, need to go somewhere, stop and grab something, wherever. We don't actually have to take these off the bike, just leave them locked, ready to go, good to go. At the end of the day, they come off super easily. All I have to do is unlock them here. Just a little lock. Pop them off. And they're, well, should have left that one locked. And then they're off in 2 seconds, and I can bring them in.
Easy as that.
Easy as pie and super convenient. If you take a look at my gauge, it's quite a bit different than his, it's a bit more analog. I still have the digital panel here. It tells me about, you know, if it's overheating, gives me my range, things like that. And then I have the traditional analog tachometer for giving me my revs, and that also have the digital speedometer. So it's not quite the same, but it does everything I need. Some aftermarket mods here. I have the voltimeter, so it shows me how much voltage my bike has. Currently, I don't know if you can see it, it's at 12.3. When I'm riding, it's closer to 14. So I can make sure my magneto is working and is charging everything. We also have USB plugs, which is nice. So we have our we both have a navigation bar. They look slightly different. But this allows me to keep the phone charged while we're here. We're gonna have a lot of cameras on our rig, so we need to keep those charged throughout the day. We wanna make sure we're bringing you guys can experience what we are experiencing. In order to do that, we have to keep everything charged nicely. Another interesting thing about these bikes that I tend to ride cafe races I've never had, and it's on both the brakes and the clutch lever, is that they're adjustable without having to fiddle with switches and stuff like that. It's just a couple of quick clicks on this. I can make them more sensitive, less sensitive. I can make how much I have to squeeze and depress the trigger, the range shorter, which means if I want a faster reaction, I don't want to have to pull it as hard to get the stopping power, and the same thing with the clutch. If I don't want to have to pull it in, squeeze it as hard, and I want to have a smaller squeeze and still be able to switch gears smoothly, I can do that. So it's nice, you can kind of tune them to what you prefer. Another thing we both added to our bikes, if you guys come around to this side here, so we often find ourselves, you know, parking them in places that have maybe soft sand, dirt, a bit of mud. And a big issue you have with bikes, especially heavy ones like this, I think, what do these weigh? About
220 kilos weight.
Yeah, about 500 pounds or so. Yeah, so about 500 pounds. And you know, if it's in soft sand, mud, or whatever, if you just have a regular kickstand, it will tend to, you know, go into its sink, and the bike can get a bit overbalanced. So what we do, sometimes we often have to find a rock or something like that. We put these little wider foot plates on them, kick plates, so that they stand up without us having to mess around to find something to hold them in place.
They're less likely to fall over.
Less likely to fall.
Yeah.
We're both using, for our navigation bars to hold our phones, we're both using a form of quad lock. Jack is using the actual quad lock from the product. Paid about how much?
I think the only difference between them is about $60.
Yes, the main difference between them is $60.
They're exactly the same.
Other than that, they're exactly the same. And this has been a godsend and extremely helpful. Your phone goes in, clicks into place in 2 seconds, boom, it's stable, pops out in 2 seconds. It's really nice because I had the other one and my phone fell out very quickly, and on the first day of our motorcycle trip, I had to replace my phone. Oh, one last little thing I've done to save a bit of space, if you're interested. So, if you guys come around here, you'll see, you know, when you're going on a several-month motorcycle trip, you really need to think about how to conserve space as much as possible. You know, one of these is basically filled with tools, spare parts, clutch cables, tire puncture kits, you know, things like that, a lot of filming equipment, drones, and then just random things, a snorkel, mask, towel, whatever. And the other ones generally your clothes, laptop, things like that. So to save a little space, we have down here, we've strapped our air pump on down here. And then I've taken these two little things, I've wrapped up my rain gear, strapped them in with reusable zip ties, which I didn't even know were a thing. So that was super cool. So that actually saves me a lot of space in my boxes.
We're both using Shoei helmets. Not wishing to endorse too much, but I like them.
I think they're fantastic. They're quiet, comfortable.
I suffer from having a very big head.
And I suffer from having a very small head, and yet we've both found Shoei helmets that fit us just right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you try other models, other brands?
Do you know what? I didn't, because my last one was, and I knew it fit me good. So.
Okay. Oh, your last one was Shoei also?
Yeah.
So I tried the AGV, which I think, one thing I like about AGVs, I think the design, they have some really, really cool designs.
Cheaper?
They're cheaper, they're definitely cheaper, sometimes about half the price of the Shoeis.
Okay.
And they have really cool designs. I just didn't find one that fit my head quite right. The shape just, it wasn't right.
Right.
I tried, and I tried the Scorpions, which again have cool designs, are even more cheap, but they're very loud, much more wind noise.
Right.
which is,
Yeah.
you know.
These are actually very good for wind resistance.
Yeah.
You don't hear much.
You don't hear much,
Yeah, yeah.
and they have really good airflow. So they both have, like, mine have adjustable vents here, in the front, adjustable vents in the back, chin vents, just about everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So we also, as you can see, we've got built-in comms.
You can join us in shot, Chris. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Introduce
jump
yourself.
in. Yeah.
Chris is going to be joining us on this trip.
Yeah.
We like to call him our cameraman, unbeknownst to him.
One thing Chris didn't do is buy his comm system because it's
Holy
Easter
Week.
Thursday and
these guys.
everything's shut. So yeah, we're a little bit ill-equipped for the first leg of our trip. But this is basically, mine's built in, as you can see, activated by pressing these. And then you can talk, listen to music, you can listen to navigation, and it takes voice commands as well via a microphone in here.
And what model is yours?
This is the SRL2, I believe. But anyway, it only fits this helmet and a couple of others, but it's very good. And as you can see, it's very neat. Unlike this one.
Yeah, so mine is, what would the word be I'm looking for when it's, well, whatever. It's not flush, it's not discrete. Mine's not integrated. Mine's not integrated. So there is some benefit to that, but also some negative. So for example, mine does create a little bit more resistance and wind noise. This is the 50S. They both have a range in mesh from 1 to 1 unit. It's touted as, what, 1.6 kilometers, I believe?
So they say.
So they say.
In a straight line.
In a straight line. We found we're probably more about 800 meters or so, I would say.
Yeah, there were times when it cut out when we were in the mountains at a relatively close range.
Yeah,
200 meters.
Yeah, so it all depends on where you are and how much
think so,
interference it is.
yeah,
But overall, they're
atmospherics.
pretty good. So one of the benefits of mine, so mine pops off like this, and I can bring mine in to charge by just bringing this in. I don't have to worry about sticking my helmet anywhere, leaving it near the wall, the charger, whatever. Pop this off, stick it in the charge, works great. Whereas Jack's, the plug is in the back here.
Got to plug the whole thing into the wall.
So he's got to bring his helmet in, and it's got to be plugged in the wall.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more discreet, and it's nice. I think the controls are slightly better on yours as well.
It wouldn't surprise me. They look fiddly on that one.
So for skipping tracks, for example, how do you have to skip tracks? Do you just have a forward button and a back button?
I actually use the voice commands every time. Yeah, previous and next.
I do that as well, but if you wanted to, how do you do it?
It's just a single press.
So that's really nice. For the 50S, you actually have to push in this jog wheel and roll it forward or roll it backwards, which is one too many actions, I feel like, when
Especially
I'm driving.
with motorcycle gloves on.
Yeah, with motorcycle gloves, it's a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
But overall, they're really good. They have the integrated microphones in here, and the microphones are actually really impressive. I've been going at 70 kilometers an hour with my visor up and made phone calls, talked to Jack, and they tell me they can't hear anything. It sounds like I'm sitting in my living room.
Yep. Yeah, and just to be able to talk to each other as well on long trips is good. You know, if you want to stop for a coffee, just something as simple as that, it's revolutionary, really.
We've also used them to warn each other on where sharp curves come in. If one of our GPSs is out, or sometimes you know, unfortunately, in a lot of the curvy roads, you find yourself needing to pass, getting stuck behind a truck or something. Your rider in front of you has passed, and there's so many blind curves you just can't see. And we can let our buddy know, like, hey, you got plenty of space, there's no cars coming, you can pass even if you can't see. I can see far ahead of us, and there's no other cars coming, which has been helpful.
That has been helpful, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, very from a safety perspective and from a convenience perspective, it's worth the extra $300 or so to get yourself a comm system. The only problem is they should be compatible, and that's worth checking before you buy. Brett had a Cardo, I had a Sena already integrated. I like the Cardo better. Brett prefers his, I get it. It seems like a better system, but it wouldn't talk to mine.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to buy a Sena, sticking it on for the purpose of this trip. But again, it was a worthwhile expense.
Yeah, they're still good. There were a couple noticeable benefits I found with the Cardo. For example, the voice recognition of the commands was definitely better. I didn't have to find myself saying things several times, such as stop music, play music, things like that. The controls were slightly better, which is the one button press for skipping tracks. And I think one of the most important things to a lot of riders, especially if you either commute or you're riding often and you have to ride when it's rainy, Sena's only touted as being water resistant. Cardo says there's waterproof. If your Sena is damaged because of water, they will not replace under warranty. The Cardo, they will.
Good to know.
That is an important feature, I feel like, for a lot of people.
Right. Especially when you're driving in the wet in places like Europe. But I mean, here you can get away with it half the time. But
but I mean, if you're in the monsoon season or something like that,
certainly.
I've done a rain trip in the monsoon season. You're getting rained on every day.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I think that's about it. All right, so I think we're heading to Gumac today. That's the plan, right? From Manila to Gumac.
How do you spell this?
Dude, I remember the name. I can't help with everything. You figure out how to spell it. Oh, Gumaca. G-U-M-A-C-A.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Kazan, is that where it is?
Yeah, there's a Jollibee. I suggest we go straight for that.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
I could use an aloha.
All right, so I'm just gonna put like kind of the gas station at the beginning of Gumaca, and then we'll go from there kind of thing. Figure it out after that.
Okay.
So what is that? It says roughly 5 hours. Takes us north over, what is that, Tagaytay? Oh, it's Lake Taal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool, because last time I went to Tagaytay, we went south.
Right.
Same route? Yeah.
Okay, fine.
5 hours?
Yeah, well, 5:57 it says on mine.
You put the car.
Ah, I thought we always go car.
We do when we're taking the highway, but with Chris's bike, we can't take the highway.
5 hours 9. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
So what's it gonna be like riding on this thing where it's our 650s? So what, a little XR 150?
BMX 150.
Yeah, XR 150. I feel like that's exactly how it's gonna sound.
You can
and
joke.
feel. So 197 kilometers should be easy enough.
Yep.
There's some twisties up here. I think I recall these mountain roads. When I went to Tanai, did the hiking.
Nice. Okay. Okay, so there might be some scenery.
Yeah.
Yeah. All good.
All right. So that's our plan. That's our route.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Up to date.
Save it.
All right. Come on. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah.
Man. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's already watching.
So we found this really cool little lunch hut stop for a bit of coffee. And man, what an unexpectedly beautiful view we had this. Can't think of many better places to stop for a cup of coffee on the road.